I was staring at the cracked screen of my phone, looking at a photo of my dad holding a wooden cabinet he had just finished varnishing, when Eleanor Cole looked up from her monitor and told me I had to choose between his funeral and my career. My name is Harvey Fletcher. I am 48 years old, and for 3 years, I worked as the Senior Systems Integration Developer at Aegis Systems. I built the entire database infrastructure from the ground up. I was the guy they called at 3 a.m. when the API connections failed. I was the guy who worked through Christmas because our lead migration coordinator, Owen Cole, who also happened to be Eleanor's 28-year-old nephew, could not tell the difference between a SQL database and an Excel spreadsheet. My dad raised me alone since I was 10. He was a retired woodworker in Bloomington, Indiana, a man who measured twice and cut once, not just in his workshop, but in life. When the hospital called at 6:15 a.m. on a Tuesday to tell me his heart had simply stopped, the world went completely silent. I did not cry right away. I just sat on the edge of my bed, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, feeling the weight of the silence. I walked into Eleanor's office at 8:30 a.m. She did not look up from her keyboard. Her fingers were flying across the keys, making a sharp clicking noise that felt like a drill in my temple. "Eleanor," I said, my voice sounding flat and distant. "My dad passed away this morning. I need 4 days of bereavement leave. The funeral is in Bloomington, and it is a 9-hour drive each way. I need to handle the house, the arrangements, and the service." She stopped typing for a split second, then resumed. "You can have 2 days, Harvey," she said, her eyes never leaving the screen. I blinked. "Bloomington is 9 hours away, Eleanor. That is 18 hours of driving. If I only have 2 days, I will spend the entire time on the road. I will barely have time to bury him." She finally looked up, her expression as cold as the air conditioning unit buzzing above us. "We are in the critical phase of the Norland migration," she said, leaning back. "This is a $3.8 million contract. We have a hard deadline next Friday. Owen is running the integration team. But you know as well as I do that we need your technical oversight. You can attend the service virtually. Someone can stream it on Zoom for you." I stared at her. I looked at the clean white walls of her office, the motivational posters about synergy and dedication, and then back at her face. My dad spent his entire life working with his hands. He did not own a computer, he did not do Zoom, and I was not going to watch my own father being put into the ground through a webcam while sitting in a gray cubicle. "This is my father, Eleanor," I said, my voice tightening. "I have worked here for 3 years. I have never taken a single sick day. I have covered every weekend deployment. I built the entire system that Owen is supposedly managing. I think I have earned 4 days." She sighed, looking annoyed, as if my father's death was a personal inconvenience to her schedule. "This is business, Harvey," she said. "We all make sacrifices. If you cannot commit to the timeline, then you will have to choose where your priorities lie." I looked down at my hands. They were shaking, but not from grief. It was pure hot anger. I had sacrificed my weekends, my sleep, and my personal life for a company that saw my father's death as a minor scheduling conflict. "Fine," I said quietly. 2 days. She immediately looked back at her screen. "Good. Make sure Owen has everything he needs before you log off tonight." I walked out of her office. The hallway was lined with the same gray partitions I had stared at for over 1,000 days. I walked past Owen's desk. He was leaning back in his chair, playing a game on his phone, completely oblivious to the fact that the entire system was held together by the scripts I had written on my own time. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. My chest felt tight, but my mind was suddenly very clear. I was not going to destroy their servers. I was not going to delete database records. I was a professional, and my dad had taught me never to build something just to tear it down. But he also taught me never to let someone ride in the wagon you are pulling without paying their share. 3 years ago, when I joined Aegis Systems, my contract was very specific. I was hired as a support analyst. My job description was to monitor system logs and assist users, but as the company grew, they realized I had advanced programming skills. Instead of promoting me or rewriting my contract, they just kept piling on the work to make my own life easier. I had spent hundreds of hours at home on my personal laptop, developing custom API integration guides, database wrapper scripts, and automation tools. These were not built on Aegis time. They were not built using Aegis resources. They were developed on my own time, using my personal GitHub account to bridge the massive gap between what Aegis paid for and what they actually needed. I opened my personal laptop, which sat in my backpack, and connected to my private server. I ran a script that scanned the Aegis shared development drives. All of my personal documentation, my custom deployment tools, my API reference manuals, and the proprietary troubleshooting libraries were hosted there. I had copied them over as a courtesy to make sure the team could function. I started zipping the files. I encrypted the directories. One by one, I pulled my personal assets off the Aegis shared drives. I did not touch the company's source code. I did not touch client data. I only took back what belonged to me. By 11:45 p.m., the Aegis servers were clean. In place of the massive directory containing 3 years of documentation, I left a single text file. It read, "Documentation removed by original author. Intellectual property of Harvey Fletcher. Implied license revoked." Then I opened my company email. I kept the message short: subject, resignation. Eleanor, please accept this email as formal notice that I am resigning from my position at Aegis Systems, effective immediately. My company-issued laptop is on my desk. Harvey Fletcher. I hit send. I shut the company laptop, walked out of the building, and drove home in the quiet midnight air. I did not feel fear. I did not feel regret. I just felt the weight of 3 years of exploitation lifting off my shoulders. I went to my apartment, packed a single suitcase, and fell asleep at 2:08 a.m. My dad was waiting for me in Indiana, and for the first time in a very long time, I was going to be exactly where I needed to be. At 8:10 the next morning, I was standing in line at the gate, boarding a flight to Indianapolis. I had my hoodie pulled up, my backpack over one shoulder, and my phone turned off. I did not want to hear from them, and I did not need to. I knew exactly what was happening at the Aegis Systems office. The morning shift started at 7:30 a.m. By 8 a.m., Owen Cole would have tried to run the daily synchronization scripts, only to find that the automated wrappers were gone. He would have searched the shared network directory, only to find my single text file reminding him that my implied license was revoked. We touched down in Indianapolis just after 2:08 p.m. The second the plane's wheels hit the tarmac, I turned my phone back on. It immediately started buzzing, vibrating against my palm like an angry insect. 19 missed calls. 8 text messages. 3 voicemails. I walked through the terminal, found a quiet corner near the baggage claim, and played the messages. The first was from Owen. His voice was pitched higher than usual. "Harvey, hey man. We are trying to run the pre-migration checks for Norland, but the scripts are not in the folder. Did you move them? Give me a call back." The second voicemail was from Eleanor Cole, her voice clipped, sharp, and dripping with authority. "Harvey, we received your resignation. More importantly, the documentation and automation tools for the Norland project are missing from the shared directory. This is critical. We are escalating this to corporate legal. You need to call me immediately and restore those files." The third was Owen again, sounding completely panicked. "Harvey, please, the client is on the line. The staging environment is throwing errors, and we do not know how to bypass the API handshake. Where is the troubleshooting guide? We need you." I smiled, deleted the voicemails, and walked out to the rental car lot. I picked up a silver Ford Fusion and started the drive south toward Bloomington. The highway was lined with green fields and old barns, a world away from the glass and steel of the city. I rolled the window down, letting the cool wind fill the car. For the first time in 3 years, my chest did not feel like it was trapped in a vice. My dad's house was exactly as I had left it. A quiet, single-story ranch-style home with a porch that smelled of honeysuckle. I unlocked the front door and walked inside. The house was cold, but it smelled of him: wood shavings, pipe tobacco, and stale coffee. I saw his work boots sitting by the back door, still caked with dry mud from his garden. A half-empty box of chocolate donuts sat on the kitchen counter, next to his favorite ceramic mug that had the words "Mr. Fix-It" painted in chipped blue letters. I spent the rest of the evening cleaning, sorting through his mail, and sitting in his old armchair. At 9:30 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from Eleanor with the company's legal counsel, a woman named Victoria Vance, CC'd subject, intellectual property demands. The email was long and formal. It stated that all documentation, scripts, and API guides created during my employment were the exclusive property of Aegis Systems under the Work Product Doctrine. It threatened legal action if I did not return the files within 24 hours. I opened my laptop and typed a short reply. "Eleanor, I am currently preparing my father's funeral. However, I am willing to discuss a resolution. I can join a video call tomorrow at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Time. I will send the link." I chose 2:08 p.m. because I knew that was the exact time Owen was scheduled to present the Norland migration roadmap to the client's executive team. The next afternoon, I sat at my dad's oak dining table with my laptop open. At exactly 2 p.m., I clicked the link. Eleanor's face appeared on the screen, her brow furrowed, her lips pressed into a thin line. Beside her was Owen, looking pale, with dark circles under his eyes. In the third window sat Victoria Vance, wearing black-rimmed glasses and looking intensely professional. "Harvey," Eleanor started, her voice tight. "We do not have time for games. We need the Norland integration files restored immediately. The client is waiting and Owen's team cannot proceed without the automation scripts." I took a slow sip from my dad's Mr. Fix-It mug. "I do not have your files, Eleanor," I said calmly. "Yes, you do," she snapped. "You wiped them from the shared drive before you quit." "I did not wipe any Aegis property," I replied. "I removed my personal files. The API wrapper scripts, the integration manuals, and the database wrappers were developed on my personal laptop, at my apartment, during my own hours. They were my personal tools." Victoria Vance, the lawyer, leaned forward. "Harvey, under Section 201 of the Copyright Act, any work created by an employee within the scope of their employment is considered a work made for hire. It belongs to Aegis Systems. You cannot withhold it." I smiled. I was waiting for her to say that. "I am glad you brought up the Copyright Act, Victoria," I said. "I suggest you look at 17 U.S.C., Section 101 and Section 201. Under federal law, for a work to be a work made for hire, it must be created within the scope of the employee's duties. My employment contract, which I signed 3 years ago, and which was never updated, defines my job description as a support analyst. My duties were strictly limited to monitoring logs and answering support tickets." I leaned closer to the camera. "Developing custom migration software and writing API documentation were completely outside that scope. I was never compensated for that work, and I never signed a written agreement transferring the copyrights to Aegis. Therefore, under 17 U.S.C. Section 106, I hold the exclusive copyright to those tools." The lawyer went quiet. She began typing furiously on another screen. "Furthermore," I continued, my voice steady, "since Aegis no longer has my permission to use my copyrighted material, any continued use of my integration scripts by Owen or anyone else at the company constitutes willful copyright infringement. Under 17 U.S.C. Section 504, statutory damages for willful infringement can reach up to $150,000 per work. And I will not hesitate to file for a federal injunction to halt the Norland migration entirely if I detect my code being used." Owen looked at Eleanor, his face completely blank with fear. "Aunt Eleanor," he whispered, "the client is asking why the dashboard is still offline." Eleanor ignored him, staring at me. "What do you want, Harvey?" she hissed. "I will not come back to work for you," I said. "But I am willing to license my tools and provide consulting services to help Owen's team complete the migration. My rate is $350 per hour, with a 20-hour minimum paid up front. That is a $7,000 retainer before I answer a single question." "That is extortion," Eleanor yelled. "No," I said. "It is contract negotiation, and because I am handling my father's estate, my availability is limited to 2 hours per day, strictly between 10 light a.m. and 12 p.m. You will get the window I give you, or you can build your own system from scratch. You have until 5:50 p.m. to make the payment and send the signed agreement." I did not wait for her to answer. I clicked the red button and ended the call. Thursday morning arrived under a heavy gray sky. I pulled on a black dress shirt that had been sitting in my closet, still smelling faintly of the cedar chest my dad had built for me when I went off to college. I did not bother to iron it. My dad never cared about ironed shirts. He cared about clean hands and honest work. The service was held at the small chapel on the edge of Bloomington, the same chapel where we had laid my mother to rest 12 years ago. The pews were old oak, creaking every time someone shifted weight, and the carpet had that damp, musty smell that only old Midwestern churches seem to possess. I stood near the entrance, hands in my pockets, watching the people filter in. I was surprised by how many came. Old neighbors from our street, men he had worked with at the community college maintenance department, and a few buddies from the local VFW. They were not wearing expensive suits. Most came in flannel shirts and clean jeans, their hands calloused and worn. "Your dad was a good man, Harvey," one of the neighbors, a retired plumber named George, said as he shook my hand. "When my water heater went out during the big freeze 2 years ago, your dad walked over with his tools. He spent 4 hours in my cold crawl space getting it running. He would not take a single dollar from me." Said neighbors do not charge neighbors for staying warm. Another man, who ran the auto body shop down the road, nodded. "He was always fixing things," he said. If it was broken, he saw it as a personal challenge. Then I saw Mr. Banner, my high school shop teacher, walking down the aisle. He had aged, his hair completely white now, but he still walked with that same stiff military stride. He stopped in front of me and pulled me into a brief, heavy hug. "He was so proud of you, Harvey," Mr. Banner said, his voice thick. "Every single time I saw him at the grocery store or the diner, he would talk about you. He would tell everyone, 'My boy is in the city, building entire computer networks from scratch. He built a system that runs a whole company.' You were his entire world, son." My throat tightened, and for a second I could not breathe. I just nodded, unable to speak. The image of my father bragging to his friends about my work, while the people I actually built it for treated me like an expendable cog, hit me like a physical blow. The service was short and simple. A few prayers, a hymn my dad used to hum while working in the garage, and a brief eulogy from one of his college friends. When it was over, we drove to the cemetery. I stood by the graveside watching them lower the pine casket into the earth. I did not cry. I just held a handful of dry dirt, letting it slip through my fingers onto the lid. Afterward, I went back to the empty house. I walked out to the workshop in the backyard. The air inside was cool and smelled of pine shavings, WD-40 and old leather. On the workbench, right next to his table saw, lay a small block of walnut wood. It was carved into the shape of a small pendant, half sanded, the edges still rough. A piece of fine grit sandpaper lay beside it. He had been working on it before he died. I picked it up, feeling the grain of the wood under my thumb. I sat on his high stool, took the sandpaper, and began to work on the rough edges. I did not rush. I just rubbed the paper against the wood in long, steady strokes, watching the fine dust fall onto the concrete floor. It was the only thing that made sense. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a notification from my bank. Aegis Systems had wired the $7,000 retainer to my account. A few minutes later, a signed copy of the consulting agreement appeared in my inbox, executed by Eleanor Cole. At 10 light a.m. on Friday, I sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and logged into the video bridge. Eleanor and Owen were already on the screen, along with 3 junior developers from Owen's team. Owen looked like he had been awake for 48 hours straight. He had a large cup of coffee in his hand, and his eyes were bloodshot. "Harvey, thank you for joining," Eleanor said, though her face looked like she had just swallowed vinegar. "We need to start with the Norland migration scripts." "Owen, show Harvey the error logs." Owen shared his screen. He was running a deployment log that was scrolling red error messages. "We keep getting a connection timeout on the database handshake," Owen said, his voice shaking. "We tried to bypass the security protocols, but it just locked us out of the staging server." I shared my screen, overriding his. I did not use a polite tone. I spoke to them the way my dad would have spoken to a helper who had ignored a blueprint. "The connection is timing out because you are trying to use the default port mapping," I said. I wrote a custom wrapper script that routes the database traffic through a secure SSH tunnel. The documentation for that tunnel was in the folder you deleted. You cannot bypass it because the staging server is configured to reject any unencrypted handshakes. "Can we just disable the encryption for the demo?" Owen asked, looking desperate. "No," I said. "The client's security compliance requires 256-bit encryption. If you disable it, the system will flag the deployment and fail the audit. You have to run the tunnel script," I wrote. "Where is the tunnel script?" one of the junior devs asked. "It is in my repository," I replied. "I will send you the encrypted package, but Owen needs to configure the local environment variables." Owen looked blankly at the screen. "How do I configure those?" I leaned back. "It is in the integration manual, page 14. Which, again, you no longer have access to. I will read it to you line by line. For the next hour and 45 minutes, I walked them through the setup. I did not do the work for them. I made Owen type the commands, correcting his syntax errors in real time. I made sure everyone on the call could see how little he actually knew about the system he was supposedly managing. Eleanor sat in silence, her arms crossed, watching her nephew struggle to write a basic command line query. At exactly 11:59 a.m., I stopped sharing my screen. "Our time is up for today," I said. "Wait," Owen said. "We are only halfway through the database check. We need to verify the table mappings. My contract is for 2 hours per day," I said. "It is 12 p.m. I have an appointment with my father's estate attorney in 30 minutes. "We will continue tomorrow at 10 a.m. "Harvey, please," Eleanor started. "We are paying you a premium." "You are paying for 2 hours," I said. "And those 2 hours have ended." I clicked the leave button, closed my laptop, and left them staring at a black screen. Over the weekend and into the following Monday, the pattern continued. Each day at 10 a.m., I would open my laptop, log into the video bridge, and watch the slow-motion train wreck that was Aegis Systems' integration team. Without my automated validation scripts, Owen Cole had to manually check every single database record. He made mistake after mistake. He misspelled table names, corrupted configuration files, and twice managed to lock the entire development team out of the primary test environment. I sat in my father's kitchen, drinking coffee, and pointed out his errors with a flat, clinical voice. I did not get angry. I did not laugh. I simply pointed to the screen and told him why his code was failing. By Tuesday afternoon, the mood on the call was grim. Eleanor Cole's camera was on, but she was not looking at her keyboard. She was staring blankly at her desk, her hair loose and messy, looking 10 years older than she had a week ago. Owen sat next to her in the conference room, his face buried in his hands. The junior developers were silent, staring at their monitors like people waiting for an execution. "The demo yesterday went horribly," Eleanor said, her voice barely above a whisper's. I sipped my coffee. "That is unfortunate," I said. "Norland's executives were furious," she continued, looking up at me. "The dashboard failed to load client data, the report generator threw a memory error in the middle of their CFO's presentation, and the migration pipeline stalled at 42%. They have given us a 2-week ultimatum. If the system is not fully operational by then, they are terminating the contract and seeking damages for project delay." I did not say anything. I just waited. Eleanor turned to the junior developers on the call. "Everyone except Owen, please drop off the bridge. We need to discuss something internally." The other windows clicked closed one by one, leaving only Eleanor, Owen, and me on the screen. "Harvey," Eleanor said, leaning forward, her voice softening in a way that felt entirely fake. "We need to be realistic here. The Norland project is critical for this company. If we lose it, it will affect everyone. We know you are grieving, and we know we may have handled your leave request poorly." "Poorly?" I asked, letting the word hang in the air. She winced slightly. "Yes, it was a hectic week and we made a mistake. But we want to make it right. We talked with the executive board this morning, and we are prepared to offer you a new position." She paused, looking at me as if she expected me to lean forward in anticipation. "We want you to come back as the Director of Systems Integration," she said. "It will be a remote-first position. You can stay in Bloomington or live wherever you want. We will hire 3 junior developers to report directly to you, so you do not have to handle the day-to-day support tickets anymore. You will report directly to the VP of IT, bypassing my department entirely." Owen looked up from his hands, nodding eagerly. "Yes, Harvey, I will assist you. We really need you back. And we are offering a 50% increase on your previous base salary," Eleanor added, her eyes fixed on mine. "Plus a seat on the executive planning committee. You will have a real voice in the company's future." I sat in silence. The kitchen was quiet, save for the hum of the old refrigerator in the corner. I could feel my own pulse, steady and calm. 50% raise. Director title. A team of my own. A week ago, this offer would have been my dream. It was everything I had worked for, everything I had proven I deserved over the last 3 years. But now, looking at their desperate faces, I felt nothing but a cold, quiet anger. "You are not offering me this because you suddenly realized my worth, Eleanor," I said, my voice quiet. "You are offering this because you are terrified." "Harvey, that is not true," she began. "Do not lie to me," I cut in. "For 3 years, I was the one who kept this machine running. I worked the weekends. I fixed Owen's disasters. I built the entire architecture that you just tried to sell to Norland for $3.8 million. I asked for a title update and a salary review twice, and you told me there was no budget. You told me my role was support, nothing more." Eleanor looked down, her lips pressed tight. "And then my dad died," I said, the words feeling heavy in my chest. "He raised me by himself. He was the only family I had left. I asked for 4 days to bury him. And your response was to tell me to watch his funeral on Zoom, because a client database migration was more important than my father's grave. You told me to choose Harvey. We were under intense pressure from the board," Owen stammered. I ignored him, keeping my eyes on Eleanor. "I did choose," I said. "I chose my family, I chose my dad, and now you want to give me a 50% raise and a director title? You had 3 years to treat me like a human being, and you chose not to. You only noticed me when I took my work away. Is there any version of this offer you would consider?" Eleanor asked, her voice cracking slightly. "No," I said, "because it was never about the money or the title. It was about the fact that I had to bring your entire operations to a screeching halt just to get you to recognize that I exist." We did not realize how much you did, she whispered. You did not care to realize, I said. And that is the difference. I leaned forward and moved my mouse over the screen. I will see you tomorrow at 10:09 a.m. for our final scheduled consulting session, I said. Make sure Owen has his configuration scripts ready. I clicked the red button and closed my laptop. I stood up, walked out to the porch, and sat on the steps. The Bloomington air was warm, and the wind rustled through the maple trees in the yard. I looked at the walnut pendant in my hand. It was almost finished, the wood feeling smooth and solid. They had gambled on the idea that I was replaceable, and now the bill had finally come due. Wednesday morning was our last scheduled consulting session. I logged in, answered their final 4 questions regarding the secure logging protocols, and verified that their database handshake was functioning in the test environment. I kept my tone strictly professional. I did not gloat, and I did not offer any extra advice. I did exactly what they had paid me to do, nothing more. When the clock struck 12:00 p.m., I said, the documentation and files I licensed to you are complete. Our contract is now concluded. Good luck. I did not wait for Eleanor to speak. I closed the meeting, shut my laptop, and packed it away in my bag. I spent the rest of the afternoon in the backyard workshop, finishing the walnut pendant. I used a drop of linseed oil to bring out the deep brown color of the wood, then threaded a simple leather cord through the loop I had drilled. I hung it from the rearview mirror of my car. It looked solid. 3 weeks later, I received a text message from a junior developer I had worked with at Aegis Systems. Norland pulled out. The text read, "They canceled the contract this morning. The board is furious. Eleanor was let go, and they fired Owen too. 2 other major clients are reevaluating their contracts. The whole department is in chaos." I stared at the screen for a moment, then deleted the text. I did not feel smug. I did not feel happy. I just felt a quiet sense of alignment. My dad used to say that when you build a house on a weak foundation, you do not need to push it down. You just have to wait for a heavy rain. Eleanor and Owen had built their entire department on nepotism, exploitation, and the assumption that the person doing the actual work was replaceable. The rain had finally come, and their house had washed away. A month after that, I started my new job. I had applied to a small 12-person software firm based in Columbus, Ohio. The company developed logistics tracking software for local shipping businesses. During my final interview, the CEO, a man named Marcus, did not ask me how many hours I was willing to work on weekends. He did not ask me if I was willing to cover for other developers' mistakes. He looked at my resume, then looked up at me through the screen. "Harvey, I saw in your application that you took some time off recently because of your father's passing," he said. "I just wanted to ask, how are you holding up? Do you need a few extra days before you start onboarding with us?" I sat there, stunned for a second. It was the first time in 3 years anyone at a job had asked me about my well-being. "I am doing fine, thank you," I said. "I am ready to start." Marcus smiled. "Good. Just remember, Harvey, we work hard here, but family comes first. If you do not take care of your life outside these walls, you will eventually fail inside them too." Onboarding at the new firm was slow and steady. There were no 3 a.m. emergency calls, no frantic messages from managers who did not understand their own systems, and no gray cubicles. The team was small, honest, and respected each other's boundaries. 6 months passed, the seasons shifted, and the cold Indiana winter began to melt into spring. I spent my weekends in Bloomington, cleaning out my dad's house, organizing his tools, and keeping the yard neat. The garage was clean now, the tools hanging in neat rows on the pegboard, exactly the way he used to keep them. One evening, while sitting at my desk in my new apartment, I noticed a notification on my LinkedIn account. It was a message request. I clicked it and saw the name Jeffrey Miller, the HR manager from Aegis Systems. I hesitated for a moment, then opened the message. "Harvey," Jeffrey wrote, "I know I handled things wrong during your last week with us. I was following orders from the executive board, but that is not an excuse. I should have stood up for you, and I should have respected your family's loss. You were right about Owen, and you were right about the system. I heard about your father. From what I have gathered, he was a remarkable man. I am sorry for your loss, and I am sorry for how we treated you." I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about the anger that had kept me awake at 2 a.m. in this very kitchen. I thought about Eleanor's cold face and Owen's frantic excuses. Then I looked at the walnut pendant hanging on the lamp beside my desk. The wood was dark, smooth, and caught the warm yellow light of the bulb. I typed a brief reply, "Jeffrey, he was indeed a remarkable man. Thank you for recognizing that. I hit send and closed the browser. I did not feel any anger anymore. The closure was complete. Sometimes, the strongest move you can make in your career is not to stand and fight. It is not to burn the building down or argue with people who will never value you. It is simply to pack up your tools, walk away with everything they did not realize they needed, and leave them to sit in the quiet silence you left behind.